All right, so we'll be adding to your adding and subtracting integer notes. The first part of this kind of shows up on the guided practice, and it just kind of intensifies what we already kind of gone over with the adding in integers, remembering those rules. When we have the same sign, we add and keep the sign. When we have different signs, we subtract and keep the sign of the larger value. And then we'll be talking about what happens when I subtract a negative value. Okay, so dealing with subtraction of integers and two different possible cases you'll run into there. And then also a word problem similar to what you'll see on the guided practice, and then also the concept check. Okay, so let's look at these questions and work on them together. Now the first part, like we said, is just reviewing what we've already looked at with adding integers together. So in the first part here, we have 93 plus 39 plus a negative 38. And it's written in a horizontal format, but we can still think of this being added vertically. Okay. The nice thing about the first two is they have the same sign, so we add and keep the sign. So adding those two together, I get 3 plus 9 is 12, 1 plus 9 is 10, 10 plus 3 is 13. So between these guys here, we get 132. They're both positive, keep the sign, so we get 132 plus a negative 38. Okay, so now we got to add those two together. So we have a positive value plus a negative value, different signs, we subtract and keep the sign of the larger. Okay, so let's subtract these real quick. Now this kind of gives you a review with borrowing, so that's not bad review to have. Notice I can't do 2 minus 8, so I have to borrow from the tens place, change this to a 2 and this to a 12. 12 minus 8 is 4. Borrowing again, change this to a 12. 12 minus 3, we get 9. So when I subtract those two, I get 94. Now I just need to check which one of the two are the larger values and what is its sign. Well, 132 is bigger and it's positive, so my final solution should be a positive 94. Okay, number 2. We have a 39 plus a negative 89. Different signs, subtract and keep the sign of the larger. So we get 89 minus 39. 9 minus 9 is 0. 8 minus 3 is 5. So these two, I get a 50, but we keep the sign of the larger value. 89 is larger and it's negative, so I get a negative 50. But then we still have to add a positive 68. Okay, so now I have a negative plus a positive, different signs, subtract and keep the sign of the larger. So subtracting 8 minus 0, we get 8. 6 minus 5, we get 1. And so the value is 18. Keeping the sign of the larger, 68 is bigger and it's positive, so my final answer is a positive 18. Number 3. The nice thing about this set is we're given 3 negative integers, okay? So we're adding 3 negative integers. They're all the same, so we're going to add them together and keep the sign. So I get a 72 plus 25. 2 plus 5 is 7. 7 plus 2 is 9. They're both negative, so between these two here, I get a negative 97. Then we're going to add a negative 56. Same sign, add and keep. We get 97 plus 56. 7 plus 6 is 13. 1 plus 9 is 10. 10 plus 5, we get 15. So the value is 153. They're both negative, add and keep, so we keep the sign of a negative. Negative 153. So that's kind of review, but it also kind of intensifies what we looked at before. Now let's talk about what happens when I subtract integers. And it's not a whole lot different, but there are some special cases that we want to address. The first one here is nothing more than what you haven't already seen before. A positive minus a positive, it's just what you think. 8 minus 1 is 7. Okay. What we really want to look at are situations like number 5 and number 7, but let's look at number 5 real quick. I have a positive value minus a negative. Minus a negative, what does that even mean? Well, it's kind of like, you make two lefts and you kind of end up going back to where you started, okay, in the same direction from which you came from. It kind of undoes things a little bit. So the way we can think of it is there's a couple different sayings. One saying is keep, change, change. And what that means is we keep the sign of the first, change the minus sign into a plus sign, and change the negative into a positive. Keep, change, change. Or another way to think of it is add, the opposite. Same idea. We're going to add the opposite of a negative, which would be a positive. And then I'm going to kind of show you what I would do every time I come across this. So the first way we think about this, keep, change, change. We would keep 5 as a positive, change this to addition, and change this to a positive. Well, what's 5 plus a positive 2? Well, 7, right? Okay, that's one way to think about it. Another way to think about it is add the opposite. So if I subtract a negative, that really means add the opposite. Well, what's the opposite of a negative 2? A positive 2, right? So it's still the same thing, 5 plus a positive 2. Now, what I would do personally, every time I see a subtraction of a negative, I just change the whole thing into a big plus sign. Because that's really what you're doing here, is you're changing it to addition. So now I have 5 plus a positive 2, which is 7. Okay? Let's look at number 6. This is an example of keep, change, change, or add the opposite. So just like I said before, this is really what's going to happen here. Just change this to a big plus sign, and we have a negative 2 plus a positive 5. Okay? Well, that's different signs. Now we're adding integers again. So we have different signs, subtract and keep the sign. What's 5 minus 2? 3. Which one is the bigger value? 5. Is it positive or negative? Positive. So that would be our solution. Okay? Let's look at number 8 real quick, and then we'll swing back to the other problem. Same thing. It's a keep, change, change situation. Again, if I subtract a negative, that just really means take this and turn it into a plus sign, add the opposite. So now I have a negative 4 plus a positive 8. Different signs, subtract and keep the sign. 8 minus 4 is 4. 8 is the larger number and it's positive, so we get a positive 4. Now the other situation you might run into is something like this. A negative 6 minus 4. A negative minus a positive. Well, the way we can think about this is the exact same thing as if I were to add a negative 4. It's the same situation as adding two negatives together. And what rule did we use when we came across those? Same sign, add and keep. So when we come across this, what we want to do is follow the addition rule same sign, add, and keep. So when we're in this situation, we're going to treat it just like we would this. Well, when we did same sign, add, and keep for this, 6 plus 4 is 10. They're both negative, and we get a negative 10, right? That's what we're going to get for our solution here. 6 plus 4 is 10, keeping the sign, negative 10. Okay? Number 9. Now, this is to give you an idea of a situation where you might actually use this in real life, and we're dealing with a credit card. I'm going to give you an example in terms of a debit card, okay? So you could go to a bank and you can open up a checking account. And what that means is you're able to deposit money into the bank in which you're able to use a debit card or be able to write checks and make purchases, let's say, at like Walmart, based on the money that you deposited in the bank. Well, if you are at a balance of 0, that means you have nothing in the bank, but you don't owe anything. If, let's say, you deposited $200 into your account, that means you're plus 200. You're over 0, okay? That would be a positive integer. You put money into the bank that is yours personally. A negative integer would be you are in debt, you owe money, you're taking away money, okay? So if you're in debt or you owe something, that is considered to be a negative integer. Well, in John's case, he's been using his credit card probably unwisely here. It says John's credit card statement says he owes, so we're talking about a negative integer value, $345, but then he makes the mistake here. He's adding on to his already accumulating debt. He charges an additional $43, $23, and $55. How much does he owe now? Okay, so in terms of thinking of it as a balance value, it's going to end up being a negative number, okay, because he owes money. Okay, so let's think about these as charges then. he starts with owing a negative $345. How am I going to find the total amount that he owes, though? Well, am I not just adding all the debt together to find the total value? Well, yeah. So we're just going to add all these negative charges to find the total debt that he owes. Okay. So the nice thing about this is it's same sign, add and keep, because they're all negative values. So let's just start with the first one, 345 plus 43. 5 plus 3 is 8, 4 plus 4 is 8, and 3. So from the first two values here, we get 388, but again, same sign, add and keep the sign, so it's a negative 388, plus a negative 23, plus a negative 55. So let's add a negative 23 to our total. 3 plus 8 is 11, 1 plus 8 is 9, 9 plus 2 is 11, 1 plus 3 is 4. Okay, so then we get a value of 411, but keep the negative sign, plus a negative 55. Now we have to add 55 to our total. 5 plus 1 is 6, 6, and 4. So altogether, he's at a negative 466. Now, you might think that's going to be our answer, but we were given this question in a Word format, so we want to write our answer in a Word format. So the way we want to write our solution is John owes $466 in credit card debt. Okay, so this would be our final solution. Now you would say, Mr. P, why do I put a negative sign there? Well, that negative sign is implied when we say owes, okay? We're saying he owes $466. We don't need to include the negative sign there. It's implied with that, okay?